What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yifang Yang. Thanks for joining us. In breaking news, former Vice Premier Zheng Wencan's bail has been revoked again. The High Court has ordered the Taoyuan court to review the case for a third time. Zheng is accused of corruption related to a land development case when he was Taoyuan mayor. Air and sea ports around the country are being scoured by police searching for a killer on the run. The very public murder on Monday morning also prompted Taiwan's premier to start a nationwide crackdown on gang crime. Reese Ayres reports.
No escape route left open, no hiding place left unsearched. Efforts to apprehend a man who committed daylight murder have spread nationwide, amid concerns he may be trying to flee the country.
嫌犯的影像我们会去做比对，然后我们会做他的跑步的比对，然后身份的查证，还有一些他的曾经待过的地方，海防各方面，不是只有您讲的那个地方。 事实上，很多包括我们这边的沿海海巡署，其实都有动员起来。我们有怀疑的对象了。
Caught on CCTV on July 8th, Lin Shijie, chair of Tainan City Fishermen's Association, was shot 11 times as he left home for a morning run. The killer then sprinted from the scene, leaving Lin for dead. Later, the suspected murder weapon and 2 vehicles are found over 2 kilometers away, burned. Investigators suspect a heavily premeditated killing, though it came as a surprise to the community, including Lin's daughter, a Tainan city councillor.
没有，一切都非常的平凡，非常的正常，爸爸的作息都很正常，所以我们现在什么都不知道。
Having previously run for public office, the police are investigating whether Lin's political ties could have something to do with his murder, and are appealing to the public for any information regarding this case and any other criminal activity.
市民如果知道任何基证，拿到任何线索，赶快跟警方通报。对于全国大扫黑的部分，我们也是全力配合。
In response to such a public and high-profile murder, Taiwan's Premier Zhuo Rongtai has announced a simultaneous nationwide crackdown on organized crime.
对诈欺、黑道、助贪以及反毒，我们全面的施展开来。我们一定要让他们觉得台湾不是你可以这么嚣张张狂的地方。
That campaign has reportedly already resulted in more than 2,500 arrests and over $20 million in seized assets, though the suspect in Lin Shijie's murder remains at large. Karma Xu and Reese Ayres for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwanese Navy officer has been indicted for leaking military intelligence to China. The Taiwan High Prosecutor's Office will take on the case. Tiffany Wang reports from Navy headquarters in Taipei.
A Navy petty officer, first class, has been accused of leaking sensitive information to what prosecutors are calling a Chinese business manager on 4 occasions since 2022. Prosecutors say the officer used his cell phone to take pictures of classified military personnel and base information at a Navy training center between April 2022 and February 2023. They said he was paid about $5,000 for that information. This is just the latest in a string of spying cases involving Taiwan's military. And China has been ramping up its efforts to recruit Taiwan's former military officers and even active duty soldiers to its spying efforts, either through leaking military intelligence or making Chinese nationalistic statements to affect morale. Now, Taiwan's defense ministry is pointing to these prosecuted cases as evidence of its efforts to root out leaks and spy activity. But as China tries to continue its efforts to influence Taiwanese society, the military will have to strengthen its defenses both inside and out. And as this latest case shows, they still have a lot more work to do. John Su, Scott Huang, and Tiffany Wang in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The Defense Ministry has removed hundreds of Chinese-made dashcams from military vehicles. 800 of the devices were removed, including from cars that transported high-ranking officers. The move comes after reports last week revealed that Chinese-made equipment was being used by Taiwan's military, including power inverters and network routers. This violates rules barring the military from using Chinese-made devices. The Defense Ministry is reviewing the case and says the equipment came from a purchase made in 2021. A group of Taiwanese islands just off the Chinese coast has suffered a blackout. As John Van Trieste reports, the outage has put the island's uneasy position between nearby China and far-off Taipei in the spotlight.
等一下，我确保你安全再出来，不然你要怕突然送。马上出来哦，跑出来，快点，快点，快点！
Firefighters rescue people trapped in elevators as yet another blackout hits the country. Close to 50,000 households lost power for 2 hours after an equipment failure at a power plant.
讨论电厂配电厂有一个高压配电盘，一个 PT 跳脱这样子，造成的一个事故。
This fresh outage hit in a sensitive spot. The Kinmen Islands are a Taiwan-controlled outpost within sight of China's coast. Once the site of artillery battles with communist China, the islands are peaceful today. But China still claims the islands, as it does the rest of Taiwan's territory. And its threat to back up its claims with force is especially keenly felt in Kinmen, most recently with maritime patrols around the islands. The islands have only one power plant, and this is the second time the islands have lost power in the last 4 years. Already, China helped supply the islands with water. Now some, including the lawmaker representing Kinmen, think it may be time to consider hooking the islands up to China's electric grid too.
金门离大陆地区非常的近。昨天这个大停电，很多金门就提出说，是不是要跟大陆接电？事实上，跟大陆接电是可以预防万一再有这样的情势发生的时候，我们可以确保不会有断电之虞。所以其实这是可以考虑的一条路。
But Kinmen is the site of conflict as well as cooperation, with military defections and disputes about fishing sources of friction between the two sides. Tuesday's blackout shows the tricky spot these islands are in, right on the border between Taiwan and China, and the sorts of choices residents must make as they navigate life on the edge. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Legislators have been debating proposals by opposition lawmakers to extend the service life of Taiwan's nuclear power plant, although they have not yet reached any conclusion. Ahead of the discussions, protesters rallied outside the legislature. Louis Watt was there.
Protesters outside Taiwan's legislature, signaling their opposition to nuclear power as lawmakers push to extend the life of the country's aging nuclear plants.
但其实核电，我相信很多欧洲国家可能还是会把它当成是一个考虑的选项，因为觉得它比较减碳。但是其实对台湾来讲，它可能不一定是一个很适合的选项，因为台湾就像我刚刚讲，它在一个地震带上。
况且台湾的核电厂已经到了要退役的年限，我们的法规已经规定它就是要退役。
如果这个老旧的核能电厂延役，在安全上会有很大的问题，所以这个安全的问题是不是政治人物能够预测得到的事情。
Of Taiwan's 4 nuclear plants, 2 are already being decommissioned, and 1 was never put into service. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party wants Taiwan to be nuclear-free, and they have a policy to phase out nuclear power by 2025. But the legislature is now dominated by the opposition, and they say nuclear power is key to ensuring Taiwan's energy security, as well as reducing air pollution and carbon emissions. Should the opposition succeed in changing the law to keep the plants operational, the government has said it would respect that.
我们就是执行单位，立法院只要通过什么，我们就去执行什么。
Taiwan's last operational nuclear plant is due to start going offline later this month. For now, nuclear power accounts for 6% of Taiwan's electricity, down from 50% in the 1980s. As legislators debate the future of these power plants, they'll need to weigh up the increased demands on Taiwan's energy supply from tech and industry with public fears over nuclear safety. 给孩子们飞和家。Klein Wong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
5 people involved in a human trafficking case that left 3 people dead have been sentenced to life behind bars. The Saline District Court found the ringleader, surnamed Du, guilty on 329 charges, including leading a crime syndicate, kidnapping, torture, forced drug abuse, and fraud. The court found that the group kidnapped and defrauded dozens of victims, including by luring people with job opportunities. 3 of the kidnapped people died after being tortured. According to prosecutors, the traffickers stole nearly $1.5 million, which the court has confiscated. A plan to import medical saline is facing criticism as hospital supplies of the wound cleaning solution runs low. Taiwan's government has started importing saline after a major domestic supplier was forced to halt operations for violating medical standards. But medical experts say solutions imported from Vietnam were not properly vetted by Taiwanese officials and don't meet international standards. The Food and Drug Administration has responded by saying that the manufacturer was approved by Japan. Taiwan's maternal mortality rate hit a 2-decade high in 2019 and continues to surpass that of its regional neighbors. With more people having children later in life, doctors and health officials are searching for ways to make childbirth safer. Wesley Lewis has this report.
This family of 3 is the picture of happiness. But parents Hong Wanxian and Li Bingrong say their journey to parenthood almost cost Hong her life.
我只要想到天哪，我真的差点就离开这人世，然后所有事情都没有准备好，谁知道生个小孩会这么可怕？为什么会这么酸？
Hong had 4 miscarriages before carrying her 5th pregnancy to full term, and while in labor, she suffered from complications. The placenta, which usually comes out with the fetus, started to embed in her muscle tissue, which prompted doctors to perform an emergency hysterectomy.
过没多久，医生就从那个布这样子走过来，走到我旁边，然后全身这样血淋淋的，这样子，他双手就这样戴着手套跟我说，就是他用英文，他就跟我说，这个你的太太大量失血，那我们现在必须紧急的摘除她的子宫。啊，我当下脑袋一片空白。
Hong was able to receive the care she needed in a hospital outside of Taiwan. But for those who do not or cannot go abroad to give birth, that is not always the case. The maternal mortality rate in Taiwan hit a 23-year high in 2019, at 16 deaths per 100,000 births. In 2021, the figure dropped to around 14 deaths per 100,000 births, but it was still much higher than the 3.4 deaths in Japan and the 8.8 deaths in South Korea. Doctors in Taiwan say obesity, depression, and environmental stress all contribute to maternal mortality, and that more needs to be done to monitor and study the source of the problem.
一个活生生的孕产妇，她到死亡之后，那到底是什么样的原因死亡的？台湾很少去做一个很精确的归类。
And as Taiwan's average age of childbearing approaches 32 years old, doctors here are encountering more high-risk pregnancies. They say these types of pregnancies should receive the attention they need at hospitals that have the proper resources.
这个是监视胎儿的心跳，包括有没有宫缩，这个就是我们监视系统。那这个设备就是我们让妈妈的生命迹象做保护，所以我们要让孕产妇的死亡率能够降低。其实这3样东西都非常非常重要。
For now, the Health Ministry has been promoting a perinatal care network plan aimed at helping high-risk patients transfer to hospitals that have the right equipment to care for them. The hope is to make comprehensive care accessible to anyone who needs it, and ultimately make it safer to give birth in Taiwan. Patrick Chen and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Over 130 people, including tourists, are trapped in Tibet by flooding. Heavy rains and landslides in recent days have damaged and blocked major roadways near China's Himalayan border with Nepal. More than 300 people have been evacuated from the remote region. Footage shows rescue workers evacuating residents in rugged mountain areas. Forecasters warn of more heavy rain in parts of Tibet, Sichuan, and Yunnan through Thursday. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at the Hall Park Villa in Singapore, a theme park presenting various depictions of the underworld. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.